so happy that you are here, and thank you so much for joining us in the FiNA Theater. FiNA stands for Food Ingredients North America. I am Sandy Almendaris. I am Vice President of Content for Supply Side, and we are all going to listen and learn about the top industry trends. We're very excited for this session. The format will go, our first speaker will present, and then we will do a Q&A with her, and then we'll invite our other two speakers up, and we'll have a discussion with me and the three of them. So if you have questions, there will be plenty of time. We'll be walking around with the microphone so you can ask your questions. And I will not keep you waiting any longer. Our first speaker is Amanda Hart back here, and she is the Senior Manager of Data and Insights at Next for the New Hope Network. Welcome on, Amanda.
Okay. Good. Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Sandy and Supply Side. So hard to hear myself back here, but I'm assuming you guys can hear me? Yeah. Okay. Okay, got it. They're trying to reorganize so I can see that my slides over there, which isn't up yet, so I'll be turning around and reading from my computer. But so I'm with a sister company of the Supply Side team here that puts on our Expo East and Natural Products Expo West trade shows, and we have a market research team within that group, and we put out a trend report every year. So I'm going to share with you some insights from that data that we conducted this year, as well as additional data where we're passionate about sustainability. We kind of want to know where consumers are going to find their information to purchase new brands, and particularly where they're finding that information about sustainability that takes them along that discovery to purchase journey. So I've got kind of two sections to share with you today. So our trend insights are drawn from our report that is a reflection, that is an analysis of what are the top trends with the most momentum heading into 2024. And we have about 40 to 50 trends that we track consistently year over year to evaluate the movement of these trends. It's a trend framework that we have. And then we look at various inputs in that trend framework. We look at entrepreneurial activity. So the entrepreneur is a market input. We're really looking at what entrepreneurs are bringing to the marketplace at our Natural Products Expo West. This is where new brands and innovators are really placing their bets that their products are going to succeed in the marketplace. And so what we do is we go through and we review all of the finished good CPG exhibitors to our trend framework. And what we're coding for is, are they showing an inflection of fresh idea and innovation within the 41 trends that are reflected in this report that we're ranking against each other? So we're looking for fresh positioning, new innovation. We're looking for just a stronger alignment of really pushing that trend forward. And then also we do a consumer survey. So we're looking for what the consumer is indicating that they think will succeed in the marketplace. And that consumer survey is asking consumers to bet what trends they think will succeed across the consumers in general. Hey, consumer, what do you think is going to resonate with you and the consumer population in general? And then more specifically, hey, what do you think you're going to do in the next 12 months? Are you likely to purchase a product that is positioned against this trend? So this ranks 41 trends against each other, but for today's presentation, I'm really going to show you the core results of what the consumers indicated is important to them. And we can see that modern conditions are trends that rise to the top. Across the 41 trends that we tracked, the all-trend benchmark average was 22%. Yes, I'm likely to purchase a product that is positioned to this trend. So we can see that modern conditions such as brain health, digestive health, and immunity all score significantly higher than that 22% average. Brain health, digestive health, and immunity are kind of foundational pillars of wellness, and consumers are saying, yes, I'm really looking for products that are going to help me with feeling focus, feeling I've got good cognitive function, feeling I've got better memory. So they're looking to products to help with that, as well as digestive health. And then immunity is 37% above that 22%. Immunity, through other research we have, has flattened out just a little bit with the pandemic, but it's still definitely a longer than just seasonal need that consumers are looking for. And so what I've done here is also given you an illustration of a product that is manifesting against some of these top performing trends that we saw at Expo East in Philadelphia. And Odyssey Sparkling Mushroom Elixir is formulating with functional mushrooms, cordyceps, and lion's mane for a nootropic boost to enhance cognitive function, increase clarity, and focus. Jen, the slides back there are still not aligned, I don't think. Oh, yes it is. Never mind, I'm sorry. It won't let me go back. Yep. So I want to be on the optimizing materials slide. Okay, thank you. Okay, so looking at top environmental trends that are focusing on being efficient with the materials and reducing waste, we see this reducing waste trend specifically up at 42%, on par with brain health, what's in it for me type trends that I just talked about, brain health, immunity. Reducing waste is really resonating among consumers. It's a top priority. Consumers are saying, I want to throw away less, because it seems that the consumer can feel like they're making an easy contribution to a huge problem in society, which is food waste, wasting materials and not being efficient, pollution, other waste streams that seem to be senseless. And what's cool is we're seeing innovators really step into this upcycling space. It's really showing up as an innovator's tool, where we're seeing so many come into the space not necessarily looking for virgin ingredients, but they're actually looking to byproducts and waste streams, and how can they turn that into something of value and innovation and interest, as well as a sustainability story in the marketplace. Renewable energy is the top trend here, optimizing energy inputs, 28%, and responsible packaging at 27%. We're going to have the panelists here are going to dig more into cool solutions, or how to step into responsible packaging. So it's definitely a top of mind interest among consumers, and we're seeing a lot of that at Expo East. We're seeing compostable packaging, a lot of effort and infrastructure in that space as well, and even just best practices in labeling, making sure that brands are ahead of the curve and really demonstrating good recycling best practices and trying to edge that industry forward and not putting recyclability on a product that maybe doesn't have a recycling end market. So starting to see some nuance, some hints at how you message more clearly to the consumer so they make informed recycling decisions. Kazoo Snacks tortilla chips, it's a really cool product, and they're upcycling corn germ. It's a byproduct from the cornstarch industry. They're reclaiming 40% of corn germ otherwise meant for feedlots, so it's going into a lower value market for that supplier. And Kazoo is buying that up and reducing their stress on virgin corn. And if you were in the session before, Sherry mentioned that there's a lot going on with water conservation, and this is reducing water use by going to the upcycling route here of corn. So our other top trends that are important to consumers is they want to make sure they have good balanced macronutrient intake. So healthy fats is a key trend that consumers are requesting and saying, hey, products, deliver me healthy fats, while I also make sure I'm incorporating more protein across a variety of consumption occasions. And I want to, again, be carb conscious and make sure I'm not over consuming simple carbohydrates. And so getting that good balanced macronutrient intake. Soon Snacks is leaning into sesame seeds for their chewy snacks to really speak to all three of these. It's a healthy fat, low sugar, and it's a healthy complex carbohydrate and protein. And then, of course, plant-based is still strong and steady in the marketplace. We're seeing lots of consumers continue to seek more plants across consumption occasions, 31%. They're also looking for clean label, reduced ingredient profiles, minimal processing, clean, recognizable ingredients, and then looking for options to incorporate plant protein. The allure of clean label is a good signal to those in the mock meat space or the alternative meat space to really think innovatively of how they can meet consumers on their clean label, their clean label demand for plant-based products. Flourish Pancakes is focusing on oat and fava bean flour blend to create a more nutrient-dense plant-based protein for pancake experience at breakfast. And then looking at agricultural systems where brands are leaning into planet-first initiatives with organic or regenerative agriculture. Regenerative agriculture has been gaining a lot of momentum in the marketplace. Many brands are engaging with regenerative agriculture, exposing consumers to more products across a variety of categories. So consumers are gaining more exposure, but they're still not up there in their awareness, but they're climbing a little bit. 17% are saying they're likely going to purchase a product that is stepping into regenerative agriculture. Organic, due to the pandemic and inflation, had a bit of a contraction. Last year, or 2 years ago, this number was at 32% consumers were going to prioritize organic. And as mentioned before, some have been trading out for financial reasons and kind of conserving resources against inflationary costs. So it'll be interesting to continue to track organic as we move on. Simply is a new brand that's been out in the marketplace. They're an ingredient supplier and a finished good company. They are regenerative organic certified, so they're organic and building on that, and they're sourcing seeds and legumes from around the world. That they're a good representation of really stepping into organic with that additional regenerative organic certification. Now, staying on topic of this organic and regenerative space, we also wanted to understand what attributes consumers were aligning to either organic and regenerative, and they could select both. So we asked them these 8 or so qualities: healthy, expensive, better for you. And we see that 74% of consumers align healthy as being as organic as being indicative of healthy. It's healthier. They also 71% also attribute organic as being expensive. And then we see the blue bars for organic kind of contract and shrink down when we get to qualities of humane and climate mitigating. So 50% of consumers are attributing organic with humane standards or practices. So there could be some effort there to improve that messaging. And then the most notable is the messaging around organic for climate issues is not as well recognized. Only 37% see organic for environmental benefits as well. But regenerative agriculture has really led the way and really focusing on its role in climate and carbon mitigation. So what the opportunity here is really to think about how organic, and there's the Organic Trade Association and certifications are really starting to step in and get parity that consumers see organic as healthier, but really working on that messaging that consumers will see organic as better for the planet. So I just wanted to mention that distinction between organic and regenerative before I go on to the other section of our research, which was published in another report we did, which we wanted to understand how consumers think about or how consumers are finding new brands that they haven't purchased for the first time. How are they learning about them? And what is that process from discovery to purchase? And so through that research, we recommend that brands think about adopting a multi-channel messaging strategy. Sorry, I forgot to change the slides. Adopt a multi-channel messaging strategy to meet consumers on their journey from product discovery to purchase, and also lean into social media as a platform to share your sustainability efforts. And then remember that sustainability is a journey. It's not just an aspiration. So the consumers, as I'll show in the data shortly, are really wanting to know more. They're doing more research. And so part of that is really sharing them how you're getting to where you want to be. And there's opportunities through this multi-channel messaging strategy to achieve that. And so what do we mean by a multi-channel messaging strategy? So through this survey, in order to learn more about where consumers are going for information, we basically asked them the same question from 3 different angles. So in general, we wanted to know where consumers are seeing information about brands just to discover them in general. Where do you go for that information? And then we wanted to ask them, what information sources did you rely on that really helped you make that purchase decision? And then what are your information sources that you're relying on about understanding that sustainability aspect of this brand that you're purchasing for the first time? So we see community-oriented spaces as top priorities. So grocery stores, social media, and word of mouth are top information sources. It makes sense. We see 53% of consumers say grocery stores are where they discover new brands. Think promotions, sales, shelf end caps, things like that. But what I want to leave you with then is product packaging here is down at 19%, and this is just for discovery. And the reason that that's important to note is that when you get to what is it that they really relied on to then change that discovery to purchase, we see product packaging elevates up with those other sources of information. So there's the discovery, there are channels that consumers are going to learn more about brands, but they're still continuing to use that product package or click on that e-commerce link to look at the 360 view of that package to really then scrutinize and verify if this is something that they want to purchase. And then this data here is broken down by natural and the total consumer product packaging plays an important role among both, along with social media, word of mouth, and discovery at retail. And then younger generations, as they shop, social media is becoming more relevant to their product discovery, as well as a reliable resource of when purchasing new brands for the first time. And we'll get into some social media insights in a second. So before we show more on activity on social media, I wanted to share that we still wanted to ask consumers what were the primary reasons that they bought a new product. And it's not surprising that we obviously see price, availability, taste. This is all ranked based on the scores at the top, and sustainability values down at number 8. Breaking it apart by shopper, total consumers, 14% said that the primary reason that they bought a product or brand for the first time is due to sustainability values. And that ticks up to 30, jumps up to double when you look at the natural channel shopper. So there's still more momentum for sustainability. And the big takeaway here is then think about sustainability as that loyalty to your consumer. They're discovering your brand, maybe they're buying it on promotion at retail for the first time, but now they're investigating, they're looking on package, they're trying to investigate and understand more about what you're about, and they see that sustainability certification or that sustainability claim and story, you engage that repeat purchase going forward. And then just looking at that same question, what is the primary reason you bought your brand or product for the first time? Just looking at general generational cut, we see millennials and Gen Z at 18 to 17%. What is cool about this data here is social media as a source of sustainability information increases with each younger generation. So in this slide, we compared product packaging to social media, and we can see the stair-step pattern of the pink columns rising and increasing with each generation as playing a more significant role in sharing that sustainability commitment that you as a brand want to deliver to consumers in the marketplace. And why social media is so important is going back to that point where there's so much effort, so much emphasis on transparency. Consumers want to know more. So social media is a place where you can share your dynamic storytelling. Packaging is where you can verify that through a QR code, through a claim or a certification, because it gets expensive to change your packaging. You can't change it every time you're going to do something to enhance your commitment to your sustainability journey. And this is where social media, short stories really comes into play for consumers. And again, we know sustainability is important to certain segments, and it is growing to importance. This is kind of taking a step back and looking at consumer willingness to pay more for eco-socially minded products. 64% of natural channel shoppers say that they're willing to pay more. And then, of course, we look at generations, their motivations. They're motivated to pay more. Millennials, 50%. And Gen Z, 43%. So engaging them on this willingness at a space where they're more calm, less stressed, than making that price-conscious purchase decision is where social media really comes in to have a multi-channel messaging strategy. They're at home, they're on the couch, they're kind of more relaxed, they're learning. And this is where you're able to kind of tap into, make that sustainability known to them at a time when they feel less pressure. And this is hopefully how you convert from this willingness to pay more to actual purchase. And that is the report that data is from as well. And I believe that is the end of my data insights for this portion. Happy to answer a few questions. I have another presentation. I wish I could stay, so I have to go somewhere else after this, but happy to field any questions. What?
I said, I guess you answered everything.
Yeah, problem solved.
I'll ask questions, Amanda, if you'll have me, and maybe while I'm asking, if you think of a question you want to ask, and if you are, I'm trying not to make it echo. If you have a question and you're like, I don't know if I should ask it, like you should definitely ask it. Somebody else wants to hear the answer to your question too. So my question is, you noted here, Amanda, that healthy fats was higher, more attractive to consumers than high protein, and that surprised me. I feel like we all hear about how important protein is. Can you speak to is that shift happening?
You mean a shift down from protein
Yeah,
for healthy
to more
fats?
of a healthy fats positioning.
I mean, I think that protein, the reason that we frame it in a balanced macronutrient position is I think the goal is ultimately to help consumers reduce the carbohydrate and sugar intake, and protein has been around as a mitigator of that, as healthy fats and fiber are. I mean, I don't know, but it seems like they're demanding it, and I feel like there's an opportunity for more avocado, healthy fats to be innovating against to meet that demand. Because I think, to your point, maybe we're not seeing it in the marketplace
right.
as loudly as we're hearing consumers say that they're seeking it.
Opportunity. I smell opportunity. Okay, you talked about social media a lot, and its importance, especially to younger consumers. Do you have any recommendations on which actual platforms that brands are finding success at, or should invest more than others?
Just based off of the expert interviews that we conducted for this research is, Instagram and TikTok are places where brands can be vulnerable, dig into some of the emotional components to really connect with consumers on their passion for sustainability. And then the websites would be maybe a little bit more of a long form story, but social media can be a little bit more raw, more in-depth, vulnerable. And then you have your reports and website for more business speak language to reach more than just consumers on your website.
Thank you. Did anyone else think of their question? Oh. Okay, then I'm gonna ask one more.
Yeah.
So you showed like packaging compared to social media, and that boomers are relying more on packaging, younger generations are relying more on social media. So do you recommend that brands have different messaging that would reach different types of consumers on their social versus their packaging?
I think the general takeaway for me is that I can't see small print anymore. I'm Gen X, and I'm sure baby boomers are struggling to see small print. So packaging is where you're terse, you're precise, you're giving good directional, tactical information, particularly when I get on my soapbox about recyclability labeling. As a consumer, I'm still confused, and I think different materials require different responses. And so if I'll get to your question in a second. So one can, if it's plastic, this plastic, you need to remove the label or the lid, and then you want to throw this away, and this can be put in the keeping track of all of the component parts of that product and communicating that succinctly on the product, and so I can see it, is what I kind of want. I think that we're seeing consumers want that precision on the product, and then more information on social media. So I feel like that, because they're scrutinizing and they want to see it as you get to be older generations, it's got to be very buttoned up and very specific and terse information.
Yay, a question. Thank you so much, Carlos.
Yeah, I'm curious about the development and marketing of regenerative compared to organic, because my experience with seeing regenerative from Rodale and other certifiers for regenerative is it's on top of organic. So it's interesting that it's perceived as less expensive when the input costs are more than organic. So what do you attribute that to?
I think it's just, well, I don't know. I mean, I think there's maybe a couple of things. That there's regenerative being positioned in the marketplace independent of organic. So there's positioning there that maybe is keeping costs down, or it doesn't have a certification yet. I'm not saying that's good or bad. I'm just saying that that's what's happening. And then I think it's still new, and organic has been around for 30, 40 years, and it has always had a little thorn on it in its side about the price premium associated with organic, and regenerative is still too new, and consumers are unfamiliar with it and don't have that trigger response to regenerative yet. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Anyone else? Oh, yay.
So hello, we are a sustainable material manufacturer in China, and this material can be turned into like hundreds of different applications. And you mentioned that the choice of organic products were cut off because of the financial situations of customers, and we also face the same thing from our clients. Like, they would order sustainable products before, but now they go back to less sustainable products because of the price difference.
Yeah.
So my question is, in terms of applications, would you recommend us to push more on the products we have more profit margins on those ones, or the ones that are more daily based but less profit margins? But at the same time, like you said, because of the financial situations of individual customers and also companies, they cut back on the sustainable part of their consideration. So I don't know if that
that's a little out of my expertise, and I think Paul would be a great person to answer that when he comes up here on the panel.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I would save that for him.
Sure,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I should have flagged Paul while you were talking.
All right. Well, thank you so
Yes.
much, Amanda. Really appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay. Okay, I'd like to invite up the next speakers of our discussion here today. We've got Paul Antoniadis. He is the CEO and Executive Chair of Good Natured. Hi, Paul. Welcome. And we've got Kat Barnes, who is a consultant at the PIC agency.
I need to turn it.
Is it? I believe it's on already. I think they manage that for us. Okay. Well, welcome. So Paul and Kat don't have presentations really. We'll have some slides I think happening in the background to just enhance our discussion. So I want to start with just a brief overview of who you are and what do you do and how do you incorporate trends into your work. So we'll start with Kat.
Hi, everybody. I'm excited to be here. So I am a consultant for the PIC agency. I have nearly 10 years in the food and beverage space, and I am passionate about working with smaller CPG brands, align their mission with their consumers.
Wonderful.
Great. And I'm Paul Antonio, CEO of Good Natured Products. We're North America's leading earth-friendly packaging company. We have over 400 different plant-based packaging SKUs. We service over 1,500 different food producers, food growers. We also have some customers in pharma, so happy to be here.
And you two have been in the industry for quite a while. You've just mentioned your recent jobs, but you've had a series of other roles and responsibilities, and we may dip into some things of that nature from the past as well. So I would like to ask you to respond a little bit to Amanda's presentation, and if there was anything in there that you'd like to speak to, some trends that you're seeing, or surprises, anything just from responding from what you just saw.
So I feel like it was very aligned with what's going on in the market. I think there is a consumer ranking system when you're shopping for a specific product. So you're also, I like price is number one, clean ingredients, sustainability, so many different factors when a consumer is shopping. So I felt like it was very aligned with what's going on today.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I would just kind of add that convenience eating is here to stay despite the economic conditions in the market. People are looking for food that's not only convenient, but it's visible, it's it's fresh, it's healthy, and as indicated in the report, they want to make sure the food producer or the retailer selling that product is conscientiously looking at packaging with environmental perspectives. So very much aligned.
Great, and I wanted to move a little bit more into that, into the values of a company and how they are having sustainable packaging, and even beyond the packaging, but how they're treating the people that source their ingredients from, and what causes they donate to, and all of that is becoming more and more important. And that I'm curious, in your perspectives, how consumers' emotions are playing into the price, the products that they purchase in a way that perhaps they haven't in the past.
All right. So, well, first of all, if you're making really healthy organic food, it's just natural to extend that effort into your packaging. And consumers, just like us, are counting on brands or food growers or supplement producers to say, hey, has that brand or that food grower taken that extra step? Like, they're expecting that. Like 77% of all buyers are saying, I expect these brands to make the right decision, right? And they're counting on all of us to do that.
And to amplify off what Paul was saying, I think brands, as a consumer, we're looking for transparency. So just taking out the guesswork in our ingredients. So when we're shopping, it's like one less thing that adds to our list. I think we're looking for the brand to align with what we care about, our moral system, and just to be clear and just sound out what's important for each individual company.
Great, thank you. So Paul,
yes.
How easy is it to switch to, or when you're launching a product, to use sustainable packaging?
Well, it's never been easier. We really focus on making it easy and affordable. I know it kind of, the presentation came across that, gosh, it's more expensive to switch to sustainable packaging, and the reality is it's never been more affordable. Like, I've been in the industry for a very, very long time, and the innovation that's taken place on the material side and the innovation that's taken place on the actual packaging design side, I think it's never been better to take that first step. I think consumers are not expecting there's no such thing as a silver bullet that's going to solve all of our climate issues. I think all of us, or most consumers, which we are in this room, they just want to see us take that step, show an effort, make a change, take some material out of your packaging design, move it to 20% renewables. As long as you're making that progress and showing that step collectively as a society and humanity, I think consumers will respond, but we're also making a difference overall. So I think we really focus on that encouragement of, hey, maybe it's not all your SKUs that you switch. Start with like one or two, build that confidence, find out how easy it is, and then expand it across your wide range of assortment, and then communicate it. I think that was well established in the first part of the presentation. Share that first step, and you'll be surprised. Our customers, when they do that, even though they may have had 10% of their assortment move to less material or more renewable material or higher recycled content, they get recognized for that, you know, and also the team members that work at that company, they recognize that, because I know we're talking a lot about consumers, but your other stakeholders, your investors, your team members, they also recognize that, and it creates a lot of loyalty.
And I would suggest like starting where you're at. I think like Paul was saying, and I think in some of his slides he mentioned right size packaging.
Yeah.
I think there's ways to go about it. Like you could also, like you mentioned, using renewable packaging. You could use recycled paper. I know like the right size packaging takes a little bit of testing and time, but I think you should be intentional about researching what works best for you, but just start where you're at. Like it definitely can be affordable, but just make small steps. Even if it's thinking about shrinking your carbon footprint, just little things like that could just be the right step in the right direction.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. So, you know, sometimes when you think about affordability and you right size your package and you put a little bit of effort through advisors internally, but also externally, you may, when you right size that, you may reduce the amount of material you're using. You may be able to design a package that's more visible, or you can put more in a case pack and load up more in a truck, right? So that'll drive down your landed costs, even if you spend a little bit more on a higher renewable packaging. So you want to look at things holistically and take that step, build that confidence. Maybe it's a category. Once your organization or your team says, hey, we can do this, then you start extending that effort across your full line. And I think that's my collective experience with customers is once you get that confidence in right sizing or material changes, you're like, oh my gosh, we can actually do this, and it doesn't really have that significant impact to our bottom line financially.
And as brands are starting and maybe focusing on one or two SKUs or one element of their operations to become more sustainable, how would you recommend they communicate that to consumers? Do consumers accept we've done these steps if it's not a complete overhaul of everything?
I would say, for me, and for example, especially, I would say start, like I mentioned, starting where you're at. I think there's a lot of grace that's given, especially for for me, speaking of to small business owners that are just starting out. Maybe you want to, in the beginning, you want to focus on the taste, but then eventually turn back to the sustainability. I think there should be grace in that. And as far as if you're trying to do your whole entire product line or maybe a few SKUs, I don't think there's a right way or a wrong way to go about it. I just think whatever works best for you is what works best for you. And as in communicating that, I think you can communicate that through your label. I think speaking about Amanda in her slides, how she mentioned transparency about how to recycle. You can mention that in your label. There's a lot of websites out there that do tutorials on packaging that explain how to recycle your package and takes out the guesswork. I think it's up to the brand to do the research, be intentional, and then execute it.
Yeah, and I'll just kind of build on that too, is like keep your message real simple so that recognition can happen. So if it's like something you can actually certify, like, 20% plant-based or 30% reduction in material usage, or maybe it's just a new innovation. You don't have to say anything because you change your packaging design. Like one of the things we're doing with the pharmaceutical industry, and I think Stephanie, we have a pack we can circle around, which we think this convenience eating is going in the supplements, where you're actually organizing the supplements into these type of Stephanie's just going to hand these out into these like daily capsule to organize how many supplements you just take a day. Well, if you're, again, I don't know everyone in the audience, but as I'm walking, I take a lot of supplements. When I buy them, they're like in these big bottles, and they're like, if I'm lucky, they're half full. It drives me nuts. So I'm on a crusade to try to change that and say, hey, listen, there's got to be a better way where you can still get that sales counter visualization and not just waste all of that white bottled that never gets recycled. Take a step and try to move away into something. Now, this is a customized package for one of our pharma. I'm sorry? Yeah, filled with candy. It's not actually medicine. But there's also an opportunity, just to build on your point, is like when you're looking at your categories, trying to reinvent them, or if you're looking at your product ranges and maybe you reimagine a new launch and you try it out and you confirm it. So it's just sometimes these legacy packaging kind of restricts us, and I just want to kind of build on the notion of maybe there's a different way, and working with your packaging partners to probe them into that innovation. So.
And I also think there's a lot of people out here that are doing the things that you actually are going about it the way you would like to go about it, or going down that path. And I think it's up to you to research that or work with them.
Yeah.
I always say, like, there's a lot of people doing great things at the supply side west. And and I would say use that network. I mean, I'm sure, like, even when I do research on the shelves, I'm seeing somebody that's doing something that I may be inspired by. And I use that, reach out to them. I use my network. So I think it's important, if you're starting where you're at, to use your network of people.
So we've talked about smaller brands. We've been focusing on them, and I'm curious about larger brands. They also need to be moving in this direction. If you look at consumer data and just the state of our world, and also when you have a larger brand, there's also more likely more stakeholders, more boards and margin, and a lot of pressure in that regard. So how would you suggest bigger brands approach this if it's in a different way than a smaller brand?
Well, I mean, I stick to starting where you're at. But with a bigger brand, I think there is a larger spend. And I think there is enough team to do the research. I always say there's an operational team that's able to take, like, the guesswork out of the research. So it's easier to, like, transform your entire line versus SKU by SKU. So with them, I would say they have a bigger spend. They have the resources to do the research and transform their entire line. So I think for them, it takes out that extra guesswork. But it also does not, you don't lose I still need to communicate this message. I still need to include my consumer base. I think that's important as well. So I think that the expense part is a little bit different, but I think you should still be transparent and communicating with your consumer base.
I share that view where it's there's an old proverb, there's the same amount of organs in a mouse as there is an elephant. So you should take that same approach, know where you're at. And if you're a large organization, you have to look at your portfolio of products and say, where do I want to start? What is our objective? And whether it's material reduction, increased recycled content, optimizing packaging to reduce material waste, you got to kind of orientate yourself to your goals and then reestablish yourself. I think for food producers or supplement producers, retailers, being an ex-retail executive, our packaging is in almost every single major retailer in the United States. They're setting mandates, right? And some of you probably, if you're selling into them, are feeling that. So they see these trends that have been presented here. They're setting expectations. So, I think it's, my counsel would be is get ahead of it. It's the right thing to do for society and humans, but it's also the consumer and the channels are demanding it. So it's definitely worth. If you're a larger organization, you have more resources. If you're a large organization selling into big retail, you really need to get, I'm sure many of you may already be ahead of it, but I think being proactively exploring these options is really important going forward for your channel success.
And the things that I've seen in this field is noticing even competitors uniting to use, like, the same co-packers or even giving a reference. So I think if we're united, we can grow as a team. I don't think there is one team over another, but I've seen, like, competitors together unite for a cause. So I think there's looking into that as well. There's a lot of brands here, I feel like, may be competitors, but I think if you look at it as a united front, it's a different type of perspective.
Yeah, I had a conversation just this morning with someone, and we were talking about how sustainability is not going to be solved by one company keeping all of the IP and doing it on their own. And I mean, I even just said solve sustainability. Like, right, we're not going to solve it. It's going to be a continuing journey as there is climate change is happening and different political situations to navigate, and all of the things that go into sustainability. So I really appreciate that point on collaboration and us tackling this as as a united industry. It's really great. And price is always important. Yeah, you got to have the social and the good, the reasons, the ethics behind it. And also consumers are price conscious. We saw that in Amanda's session as well. So can you speak to some of that, and how can companies incorporate these sustainable practices and minimize the increase to the consumer if possible?
Well, I mean, I'll chime in that. Well, the great news for everyone in the room, there's a lot to choose from more than ever, right? So when we engage with our food producers and food growers, our clients, is we listen, we learn what their goals are, we understand their commercial. You can't sacrifice your commerciality, and we present options to you. You can go with a bio-PET with a higher recycled content. It'll deliver you a lower price. Maybe we redesign your package, take out some more material, optimize your landed cost. And it's a category issue, right? So we all have our traffic drivers and our profit generators, and maybe it's the orientation around what categories in my existing portfolio is best suited for this, and you're managing your margin mix as you start this transition into sustainable packaging. But the concept that you've got to pay 10 times more to move sustainable packaging is kind of fading. We offer our packaging at times the same price as PET. Sometimes we even are lower, depending on the designs. Sometimes we're more. So I think that I think we talked a lot about collaboration. Like, that's really important, is like, branch out, explore new collaborative channels. Have that conversation. I think you'll be surprised. And I want to let you know the innovation, looking at the generation in this room, like, remember, cell phones weren't back in 2001 necessarily around, and now look at them. Like, the innovation in plant-based materials is in an incredible pace. There is such a thing as 100% plant-based bio-PET. There is plant-based polypropylene coming on its way. There is, in the forestry, waste being innovative and incorporated in nanoparticles to increase property. So these options are only going to grow for all of you and us as the innovation continues to advance its material science, which is pretty exciting.
And I challenge you all, like Paul was saying about, there's all these companies that are on the horizon with these new different technologies for packaging. And they're looking for you to basically invest, scale with them, because of course right now they're super small. Yep. And it's just a bit of a vision. But I think I challenge you to do the research. And if you, like I said, collaborate with them, you never know. You might be on this new invention, this new forefront, and you would be a part of that. Like, there's mushroom packaging, there's like seaweed packaging, there's so many different things that are out there, and just I implore you to do the research and be intentional.
Yep.
So Paul, and you just mentioned Kat doing the research, and then Paul, you bio PET. Like, can you just outline some of the different packaging options that are available, and what, if I am starting a brand and I don't even know what to start, what do I even Google? What do I even go into foodandbeverageinsider.com and search for?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of different material options that are available today, and more on the horizon the next, call it 2 to 3 years. I would say, if you're the concept that all materials are recyclable, it's just a matter of whether the recycle stream accepts it or not. That's the first kind of thing that I just personally want to say, is like, all materials are recyclable. It's decided by that municipality or that state on what are the rules in that area on what materials are or are not. So I think it's really important to kind of get your orientation on the markets that you serve and what those regulatory requirements are. but you have your bio-PET, and that bio-PET is the exact same thing as PETs, exact same properties. Matter of fact, you can commingle it downstream with 100% petroleum and grab that down cycle, recycle it, and make a brand new product. You have bio-HDPE, so many of you may be using HDPE or LDPE products. That's available in plant-based material. You could actually co-mix that into different recycled content levels. And then you have fully compostable materials, right, which are, an industrial composter. And I will tell you, home composting materials are coming. There will be a day where some of our packaging will just literally be home composted and thrown into a garden. So there's just more and more innovation. Now, you're probably saying, that's a lot for me to keep up in my day job. And that's where I would just say, hey, collaborate, talk within your existing markets. You can talk to us. There's a lot of people out there. Broaden your network, as you highlighted, and you'll be surprised. And try it. Like, don't be, find a way to begin to access and take that first step. And I think that's the other. Sometimes all this messaging creates this paralysis. All these regulatory, what do I do? I got to wait for, how's this all going to settle? Don't wait for that, because don't get paralysis. Make a move, try it out, test it, roll it out, make one SKU successful, and then lay out your next step.
And then other means is reducing your carbon footprint. Even if it's like localizing your supply chain, looking to your neighbor, things like that. There's so many different steps you can take. There's no, right way or right path, just whatever works for your company.
I want to open up for audience for questions. Fabulous. We've got Ashley back there with running the mic.
Hello?
Hello.
No, thank you both. Really, really interesting discussion. I was curious, as you see more and more claims in the market around sustainability, if brands feel like brands that are willing to take the hard steps or try the hard things in respect of sustainability are getting full credit from consumers, or if they see a bit of washing of the market and ambiguity because of so many different claims out there, or how the ones that do take the hard steps take steps to get consumer credit for that effort.
Yeah, I think the way if we were sitting down as a client and we were talking to you, giving us, listening to you, and you're like, hey, where do I start? I would say, try to keep it simple, right? Don't try to do it all at once. Be really clear on what's important to you. Let's just say, in this situation, you say, hey, recycled content's really important to me. Or then let's really emphasize on that. If you're saying, hey, bio-based content at the highest possible recycled content is really important to me. So then just land that message, right? There's a lot of different sub-messages by making that move. CO2 reduction. Hey, maybe you migrated to a more local packaging manufacturer. But when people try to say too much, you don't say anything. I think that's the fundamental, or they try to say what the regulatory bodies are wanting you to say, but it's unclear what the regulatory bodies want you to say, right? So you really got to really understand what's important to you and your consumer and pick it and then message it. I think the messaging channels were really well communicated at retail, through social, on your packaging. I'll add one, which is the quiet good, right? So sometimes the best thing to do as a business owner or operator is you just do it, right? Because you're trying to reduce your CO2 footprint or your dependency on petroleum-based or synthetic-based materials.
And I think you should mention, I know Amanda mentioned about social media, I think you should communicate that message and be transparent with your consumer base. We want to be on that journey with you, and we also want to acknowledge that you're making an effort as well. We want to see that effort. And I think, if you communicate that, we're going to give you grace, and we'll be along with you on that journey. That's
a really important message. Like, people think, well, I shouldn't say anything. I got to have it all be perfect. Like, I don't, look, every person is good-natured. If they see someone making an effort and you're being transparent, you're saying, hey, we're discovering this, here's our steps, here's what we're doing. Even if you're then make a big, bold move 2 years from now, as long as they're seeing that progress, they're saying, yeah, I like this brand because they're really trying. And that, don't underestimate that.
Hi, I'm Amy Crothers. I'm with AgWest Bio from Saskatchewan, Canada. So I have a bit of a question around packaging and then also awareness into that recycling system. So are companies like yours, Paul, working with the recyclers or the municipalities to talk about how to deal with this material? And this is a question where I don't come from the packaging side of the world, so maybe that's an obvious answer, but I'm just interested.
Yeah, boy, it's... Okay, so we really, Good Nature focuses a lot on the ups. When you look at the life cycle, we focus way upstream on picking materials, the packaging design, but downstream, a lot of that municipality recycling rules, as you know, is done at a local level. It's quite complicated. And there's technology today, just so everyone knows, that if a local municipality can afford it, it could literally, again, there's like scanners that can actually sort to the brand level, right? So it's there, costs money, but it's there. So I think what's important to you as a food producer or a brand is to understand those requirements at a local, state level and try to establish your portfolio around that. Now, we do deal with brands that are like, hey, I'm a national brand. Like we have food producers that ship their food products to every single retailer. Like, what do I do? You got to really have a consultative discussion with them and then pick a position. We have some pick bio PET high recycled content. We have some private companies that are like, hey, look, I'm in the field or I'm in the hot houses. They're really close to the earth, right? And what we find is the people that are engaged with the actual production of food and the earth every day, they go to industrial compostability. Like they want to go as much plant-based as they can because they see the impact every day in the way they engage with the planet. So it's a very difficult question, other than I would say know your market, know your regulations, and then get some advice collaboratively, pick a spot and go for it. Don't get paralyzed by the recycling thing, because I mean, I don't know, Stephanie's probably gonna get in trouble for saying this, but not all plastic gets recycled, right? So a very small portion. This is not Paul's numbers. I'm not trying to poo-poo anyone. Just go to the EPA. You can go to your own website and look at it. Like bottles are the most recyclable products downstream. So it's the most profitable. So it's a complicated conversation. So you want to balance that perspective. So I don't know if there's anything else.
I was going to add, like Paul was saying, I think you want to make sure you're doing your research. There's different, I say different states that have different laws about different packaging. Let's say example, glass. You want to make sure you're doing that research and make sure that it's not aligned, because there's some markets that it works and some markets it doesn't work. And me working with different brands, I'm understanding some things don't work in each market. So you want to make sure you're on top of that, work with maybe a consultant that can help you and inform you, because not everybody has the time, especially when you're managing your own brand. But that's why I would say operations, make sure you have somebody in operations that can do that research or consult and work with somebody, because you never know what market you may miss.
Yeah, and a classic example is Hawaii. Like Hawaii is now mandated, food service packaging and fresh food packaging to move to 100% industrial composting. So I think it's really important. You're like, oh, it's going to cost me a lot of money to get that advice, but it's worth getting that orientation to drive your decision making.
So I had a question about biodegradability. So we're a manufacturer. We make prescription packaging. We've made it for 30 years. We've tried PLA. We couldn't pass our government standards for like moisture, and we tried other resins. Recycled content was just killer for us in production. Just a little bit of cardboard clogs up your gates and your molds down for 2 hours. So about 10 to 15 years ago, we went to biodegradable because, like you're saying, only maybe like less than 5% of plastic is recycled now. Is that considered acceptable as far as sustainability if it's a biodegradable product?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important. Just to summarize what you said, if I missed anything, just clarify it. So, comment is hey, depending on the application, the material may or may not work. That is a statement across any type of material, whether it's plant-based or synthetic-based. So that application is important. And the other comment was, hey, when you use recycled content, it can be contaminated. Let me tell you, having 200,000 square feet of manufacturing, I feel you. Like, that's a problem. Like, and it's really hard to get high quality PCR that has a certain IV level. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider in that. Now, on the pharmaceutical side, that compostable material or the PLA material I talked about, some of the application won't work. The good news is bio-PET and some of the pharma blister packs that we kind of hand around does work. There is no such thing as a plant-based PETG yet, but polypropylene is on its way. It'll probably start with a lower recycled content, renewable content because of affordability, just like bio-PET. You can get 100% bio-PET that's plant-based. It's just too expensive because the manufacturers haven't scaled it. But there's billions and billions of dollars of infrastructure in play now for everyone to know, and that all these plants are going to be online in like 2026. So as supply increases, that the renewable content level will go up higher. So not all applications today are covered by renewable materials. Yeah.
Like, I definitely understand the struggle, especially since I'm more food beverage CPG. So even with me being a part of like testing things in transit, things that hold up in cold, hot, just how that like transforms or the way it's delivered, is it held firmly? I think that's why design is important as well as a foundation. But I do see like the struggles of trying to be sustainable, but however, there's a form of testing that you have to go through to make sure that it holds up. And there is definitely a struggle. It does take time, but it does help if you're partnering or collaborating with somebody that's going down the similar path or somebody that has gone down that path. Excuse me. But you should definitely align and partner with someone. You don't have to be alone in this.
What a good message. Are there any other questions from the audience? Okay, then I'll close with one question. Here we are at Supply Side West, Food Ingredients North America. How would you suggest that people tackle this show in terms of trends and to create their next innovative product?
I would say I've noticed like there's a lot of sampling. For me, I think the easiest way to start is maybe some sort of different food service packaging for those samples, maybe combustible cups and things like that, or plant-based cups. That would be, for me, like visually as I walk the floor, that could be a small start.
Love it.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I thought there were some really good trends on the type of products that consumers were orienting themselves, so I would focus on. I just kind of balance that or add that convenience eating. Like, I don't know, we all are convenience seniors, but I'm looking for healthier things in that space. So we're seeing more healthier products or smaller portion products that are healthier. I would really look to launch, if I were launching a new product, and we have with a couple clients, we actually encourage them, and they've launched, and they've been very successful on smaller portion sizes that are more convenient and healthier for consumers. That's where I'd spend my time.
Balance with a little additional. I would say on another note is I love how scientific everything is and how much research goes into these flavors and these ingredients. I think it's very cool to see. Like I haven't seen anything like this before.
I may just quote you in our media brands with that last point. So thank you so much, Kat, and thank you, of course, for joining. Thank you, Paul. This was wonderful. I really appreciate all the insights.
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank
for taking
you.
the time.
Yeah.
Appreciate
And
it. Thank
thank
you.
you all for coming and listening. Really appreciate you.